Welcome to a look at the lust cycle, which is a lot like the way Homer Simpson thinks. But in all seriousness, this mini course will empower you to break free from the lust cycle which you're presently in. Now, this course will show you the root of the problem, and as in everything, getting to the root is really what needs to happen first before we can deal with the problem instead of just deal with the symptoms. So in this video, we're going to talk about false identity. In other videos, we'll also talk about the battle for your mind, how we seek after lust, and the logical step of acting out our lustful behaviors. So in this video, we're just going to concentrate on our false identities. Now, when we have false core beliefs, that is, when we see ourselves and the world around us in a disordered way, we tend to act out of those core beliefs, which lead to such behaviors as, using porn or masturbation or hooking up or all kinds of crazy things that we do that tend to mess up our relationships. Now, we typically embrace destructive core beliefs because we were taught them at a very young age. So this should take some of the pressure off. In this video, we're going to look at some of those lies you have been taught by your family and your culture. Like it or not, these experiences are teachers who have shaped the way you think and therefore the way you act right now. Childhood wounds play a big role in how you think and behave right now. So what I mean by a wound is that people or experiences have somehow crossed healthy boundaries growing up, or boundaries that may have just been neglected as you grew up. This section of the course can be tough to swallow because hurtful memories of your past are never all that fun to think about. But these memories are the secret key to unlocking the truth about your true identity. So take courage. God will help you find meaning in the pain. Now, Vice President Joe Biden may have not been verbally abusive to you growing up, but perhaps your overbearing father, coach, or teacher would relentlessly tell you that you are good for nothing. They may have not said those exact words, but unspokenly, that is the message that you received growing up. Well, it's time to realize the truth that God made you for greatness, and He doesn't make mistakes. The new message is you are worthy and you are loved. You may have been abused physically as a young man from a father who had a serious temper problem. But you found that pornography helped you escape the reality you were living in. That makes sense. The good news is that now you're a big person and you have a choice. And I think it's about time you start fighting back. Defeating the lust in your life is a good place to begin this fight. If you were sexually abused as a young man, which is not uncommon in our society, then you may have grown up with the false belief that sex is the only way to intimacy. The truth is, intimacy is found not only in the sexual act, but also through connection with other people on an emotional and spiritual level. But acting out sexually is much safer than exposing your emotions of deep pain and loneliness to others. It can be uncomfortable to talk about your emotions. I feel you on this one. It's not a cakewalk for me to talk about emotions at all. But stick with me. I want to show you how to be more vulnerable with other people so that your past can be healed and so you can move on. When we hear at an early age that God is a condemning God who judges with an iron hand, we have been spiritually assaulted with lies from the pit. Jesus came to redeem the world, not to condemn it. And so we got to learn to depend on a good God rather than give Him lip service or just try to hide things from Him or blame others. Yeah, I think it's time to meet the real God, not the false one that may have been taught to you growing up. Now let's talk about how you may have been neglected as a young boy. The challenge here is that you probably don't know how much you missed. How would you know unless someone told you? So I want to shed some light on what you should have received growing up. Emotionally, your family was supposed to make you feel included, heard, affirmed in your uniqueness. Most of us, however, only received nominal time and attention. And when we screwed up, we were made to feel as if we were worthless. I wasn't given this kind of nurturing that I needed growing up, so I found it in a centerfold smile and what I thought of as love for a moment. But you and I are not young boys anymore, so we don't need to use porn or sexual experiences to affirm our worth. When I began to let God parent me as an adult, many of those false core beliefs about myself began to disappear. The message you may have carried with you into adulthood is that I'm not good enough for anyone's love. So the counterfeit love of porn and lust have provided you a source of connection. But now we see that being neglected as a young man wasn't our fault at all. You can begin to change your worldview so that porn is no longer a legitimate option. Rather, healthy, long-lasting relationships with God and other people are going to replace this and become the best way to recover your sense of meaning and purpose in your life. If you're like me, I wasn't told much about what healthy sexuality looks like growing up. And because, maybe our families or our church neglected to teach us in a persuasive way of the meaning of sex, we were taught instead by our culture around us. And that's not a very good place to learn how to be a man. Healthy sexuality is a combination of sexual intimacy, emotional intimacy, and spiritual intimacy. Without all three, you and I are bound to have problems. And lastly, we are spiritually neglected when no one tells us that there is a power already living within us that is more powerful than the urge to lust after an illusion of fake women. No one ever told us how to tap into the maker of the universe who already lives within us. And that to me is a tragedy. So I want you to remember what Jesus said. He said that you are a temple of the Holy Spirit. And with that reality of the Holy Spirit living within us comes a great advantage over our sexual dragon. It's time to release the power within you, the power of the Holy Spirit, and put to death that dragon once and for all. All of this reality, the reality of your woundedness, leads to a deficiency in our ability to be intimate with God and ourselves. Talking about our emotions becomes like pulling teeth. And being totally radically honest about our behavior seems like near impossible. If any of this information in this part of the course of the lust cycle is hitting you in the right spot and is helpful, send me an email or give me a call. Sometimes that is all it takes to start down the road to freedom from shame and guilt of our sexual sin. In the next video, we'll be talking about where we begin to win the battle for our sexual sanity in the mind. Until then, live in integrity.